is July 25th, 1886. Jordaan is a neighborhood in Amsterdam. It's a working-class borough where laundry hangs between narrow buildings, where the smell of herring and tobacco fills the air, and where life is hard but never lonely. The streets are crowded with dock workers, factory laborers, and their families. Children run barefoot over the cobblestones. Women lean from windows shouting conversations across alleyways. It's a place where every neighbor, although not related, is considered an aunt or an uncle to the neighborhood kids. Life here is tough, wages are low, and work is brutal. The cholera outbreaks of the last couple of years still haunt the neighborhood. But there's something else here too, camaraderie, laughter, and a fierce pride in being from the Jordaan. And today is special. Today is a day of Palingoproer, eel pulling. Over the Lindengracht, a rope stretches from one side to another. Hanging from that rope, slick with grease and soap, dangles a live eel. Dozens of people crowd the canal banks, cheering and placing bets. It's a tradition that goes back generations. Simple entertainment for people who can't afford theaters or fancy restaurants. The rules are very simple. You row out in a small boat, stand up, and try to grab the eel. But the eel is slippery, alive, and very much does not want to be grabbed. Most people fall straight into the canal. The crowd roars with laughter every time someone hits the water. This is the Jordaan. This is joy carved out of hardship. But the Amsterdam police does not see it that way. The Netherlands in 1886 is modernizing, industrializing, and with that comes a new class of bureaucrats and reformers who look at the working class traditions with disgust. They see Palingoproer as barbaric, cruel, and uncivilized. Never mind that these same reformers have no problem with the conditions in the factories where Jordaan residents work 12-hour shifts. Never mind the child labor. Never mind overcrowded housing where families of 8 sleep in single rooms. But a greased eel hanging over a canal? That's where we draw the line. The city council debates the issue. Animal cruelty, they say. Public decency, they argue. After some debate, they pass an ordinance. Palingoproer, eel pulling, is banned. The people of the Jordaan ignore it completely because here's what the city council doesn't understand. The eel pull isn't just entertainment, it's identity. It's one of the few things these workers control in their own neighborhood. Take that away and you're not just banning a game, you're telling them their traditions are silly and don't matter, that they don't matter. So on July 25th in 1886, when the rope goes up over the canal and the eel is hung, everyone in the Jordaan knows what it means. It's an act of defiance. The crowd gathers in the afternoon heat. Hundreds of people line the canal. Someone brings a fiddle, another an organ. Children sit on their father's shoulders while their wives place bets on who will fall in first. First guy rows out. The crowd holds his breath. He stands in a boat, reaches for the eel, and immediately tumbles backwards into the green canal water. This was pre-indoor plumbing, mind you, so I'll leave you to imagine where the bedpans were emptied. Anyhow, the crowds erupt in laughter and applause. This is the Jordaan at its best. For a few hours, poverty, the daily grind, fades away. For a few hours, they're just people, having fun. Then the police arrive. A group of officers pushes through the crowd. Their uniforms are clean and pressed. They look out of place, are out of place. The Jordaan handles its own problems. The lead officer raises his hand. This gathering is illegal. Eel pulling has been banned by the city of Amsterdam. Everyone must disperse immediately. The crowd goes quiet. People exchange glances, but nobody moves. Someone in the crowd yells back, "We've been doing this for 100 years. You can't stop it." Another voice, "Go back to your fancy neighborhoods and leave us alone." The officer repeats, "I'm ordering you to leave now," he screams. But the crowd doesn't leave. Instead, more people arrive. Word spreads through the Jordaan that the police are trying to shut down the eel pull. Dock workers leave the docks, factory workers abandon their shifts, and within an hour, thousands of people fill the streets. The police don't know what to do. They're outnumbered 50-1. They attempt to cut down the rope holding the eel, but the crowd surges forward to stop them. And just like that, a game about a greased eel becomes a riot. What happens next is chaos. The crowd doesn't just protest, they fight back. Cobblestones are pried from the street and thrown at the police. Windows shatter while someone overturns a police cart. The officers retreat, calling for reinforcements. But reinforcements don't calm the situation. They escalate it. More police arrive, and minutes later, soldiers. The authorities decide that this isn't just a protest anymore. It's an insurrection, and insurrections must be squashed. The riot spread beyond the Lindengracht. Other grievances surfaced: the overcrowded housing, the low wages, cholera outbreaks that killed their children, while wealthy neighborhoods stayed safe. The eel was just the spark. Fuel has been building for years. By nightfall, the Jordaan is a war zone. Barricades go up in the streets while fires burn. The sound of gunshots echoes off the narrow buildings. The military is ordered to tame the crowd by any means necessary, so they open fire. 26 people die over the next few days. Men, women, even children. They're shot in the streets of their own neighborhood by soldiers who see them not as citizens, but as a threat to public order. Hundreds more are injured and many are arrested. The authorities crack down hard, determined to show that civil disobedience will not be tolerated. When it's finally over, the Jordaan is quiet. But not a quiet of peace, but the hollow quiet of shock. Families mourn their dead while blood stains the cobblestones. The rope that held the eel hangs on one side of the bridge, cut and discarded like a fallen flag. The city council congratulates itself on restoring order. They've proven that the law applies to everyone, that Amsterdam is a modern, civilized city where barbaric traditions have no place. They completely missed the point. The Palingoproer, the Eel Riot, becomes one of the darkest moments in Amsterdam history. Not because of the eel. The eel was really never the issue. It was about power, about who gets to decide which traditions matter, about what happens when people who have almost nothing are told they can have their simple pleasures. The workers of the Jordaan weren't fighting to torture an animal, they were fighting to hold on to a piece of their identity in a world that was rapidly changing around them. They were fighting to be heard by authorities who saw them as problems. They were to be managed rather than respected. And when they dared to say no, to protest, to stand their ground, they were met with bullets. The tragedy isn't that a riot started over something as absurd as an eel on a rope. The tragedy is that it took a riot for anyone to pay attention to the Jordaan at all. And even then, the attention came in the form of soldiers with rifles. Today, the Palingoproer is remembered as a symbol of class conflict in the Netherlands. It's part of labor history taught in schools and commemorated with memorials. The victims are honored as people who stood up against injustice, but I wonder what they would think of that. The dock worker who just wanted to watch his friend fall into the canal and laugh. The factory worker who threw a cobblestone because he was tired of being told what to do. The mother who lost her son to a soldier's bullet because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time. They didn't set out to become symbols. They just wanted to keep a tradition alive. They wanted to feel like they had some control over their own lives, their own neighborhood, their own traditions. Instead, they became footnotes in a history book. 26 dead and hundreds injured in a moment that changed Amsterdam forever. The deeper question isn't whether Palingtrekken was cruel. Of course it was, from our perspective in 2025, but if we stand in their shoes for a moment, if we try to imagine life in 1886, we might have done the same. Because what happens when people who have no power are told they have even less than they thought? What happens when authorities care more about appearances than about understanding the communities they're supposed to serve? The Jordaan was a powder keg waiting for a spark. The eel just happened to be what lit the fuse. On July 25th, 1886, a rope stretched over a canal in Amsterdam. An eel hung from that rope, and 26 people died because of it. Not because an eel matters more than a human life, but because to the people of the Jordaan, that eel represented something bigger: freedom, tradition, dignity, the right to decide for themselves what brought them joy. They fought for it, and they paid the price. Sometimes the most important moments in history don't start with political movements. Sometimes they start with something small and absurd, like an eel on a rope. The eel becomes a symbol of the eternal human struggle to be seen, to be heard, to matter, to belong. The people of the Jordaan mattered, their traditions mattered, their lives mattered. It took a riot for anyone to notice, and 26 fallen for anyone to remember. Thanks for watching. This episode was suggested by you. If you have any topics that you would like me to look into, I would love to hear it. You can drop it in the comments, but it might be better to email it to whatnowtips@gmail.com. I'm Henry, and this is What Now.